Welcome to this very special crossover edition of A Strange New Pod and the Discotheque Podcast as we review Star Trek Discovery Season 3. I'm one of your co-hosts this evening, Ensign Brittany from A Strange New Pod.
And I'm Marcie, the co-host and creator of the Discotheque Podcast. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. Today, I brought my friends and co-hosts, world traveler just back from Japan, transported in only a few days ago, Rachel, and the master of Starship Registries, Trek Trivia Extraordinaire, Lewis.
Woohoo!
Yay! Japan, that's awesome.
Yeah, and
yep, I jet lagged, so that's fun.
Well, at least you made it here, transported and all, beamed right in. So I'm also joined by my trusty bridge crew. For those who are watching live on Twitch, we have Captain My Captain Julian, Rear Admiral Eric, Lieutenant Hawk, and unfortunately tonight we do not have the rider of Transworms, the tamer of warp cores, wearer of Spock's helmet, and the cause of every rip in Captain Kirk's uniform, Ensign Aaron, because there was a power outage, so she's in black alert.
The wearer of
Literally.
Spock's helmet.
I had
Right?
to. It just sounded
Spock's
good
helmet.
at the moment.
Remember
That was the one
remember
this
that
week.
Oh man.
Anyway, if you're joining us tonight for the first time on Twitch or YouTube, we like to say keep those questions and comments coming through Subspace all night long. And Marcie, how is this going to work tonight?
We are going to review Season 3 in its entirety. We're going to split it up into sections. First 5 episodes up to Die Trying, basically the Finding Home arc. Then episodes 6 through 8, including the introduction of Osira, the more episodic elements of the show. Then 9 through 10, Back Through the Mirror. And finally, the 3-part finale. After that, at the very end, we'll be getting into favorite moments, character arcs, things that didn't work, and theories for Season 4. And finally, our ratings.
Okie dokie, we got a lot to get through, so we're not going to plug our Patreon tonight, but we do want to give our shout out, as always, to our Patreon collective, because you not only help make shows like this happen, but you're also a blast to interact with on our Discord. So special thanks to Simon Stager, Jeff Reeve, Mariah Gossett, Mag, Ann Bradley, Spotted Giraffe, Brendan Feltzer, Mitch Thatcher, Rob, Jen Stein, Tina Alexander, who I feel like I gotta take a break here.
I know we got some minute now.
Yeah, right. Joe Saporito, Noe Santos, Kang Hui, JD, Takako Nagumo, Kara Kennedy, and our newest collective member, Patrick Hazard.
Yay! Thank you,
Yay.
Patreon.
Patrick Hazard sounds like a superhero.
It
Patrick
does.
Hazard.
We have a lot of interesting names, whether they're usernames or real names, so nice.
Max
Guess
Alright.
we'll
Power.
know.
We're going to jump right in. Finding Home, episodes 1 through 5, 2 crash landings, our intro to Book and Queen Grudge,
Yes.
Emerald Chain, and much more. What did we think of the first 2 episodes of Disco Season 3, and should they have been released together?
I personally loved both the episodes a lot, and I actually like that they were released separately because I feel like one problem with like a lot of streaming, like the Netflix model of shows, is that specific episodes don't get talked about, because if you watch everything together, you just end up talking about them all together, and so you get a lot less like episode by episode reviews, which is something I really like about television, is it's
Mhm.
reviewing things in parts.
I can respect that.
Yeah, for sure. I love the first 2 episodes. I do think they should have been released together. I feel like putting them together like a big ass movie. It was so cinematic, and it's probably the most cinematic out of all the episodes of this season. So putting that together and having the stakes just keep on rising as it went through, I thought it would have been a really strong opening. That being said, I think it's probably the strongest opening out of all the seasons of Disco.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of doing the live kind of virtual premiere thing they did, and we thought that we were only getting the first episode of the season, and we were like doing the chat and they were interviewing the actors, and then like Red Alert came up and they're like, guess what, you're getting to see the next episode. So I got to see both together, so I probably have a little bit of a bias. I just know, like, you know, so many people got to see it that way. There were like, I would say like thousands of people probably at that virtual premiere. So then when CBS did the first episode normally, and then it wasn't the 2 together, I was like, they worked well as a pair for me. And I don't make that kind of complaint for the tail end of the season as well. but I do think they should have been together. But having said that, they're both amazing episodes. It's mentioned in our comments already. Drunk Michael is amazing at the start.
Oh, yeah.
Getting to meet Grudge, who is a queen, and it was just so good. And then the kind of the cowboy episode we get, right, when Disco crashes and we have to deal with that situation, and Tilly and Saru just being in this unknown place, and Zara and being just a really just not good dude. Absolutely love it. What I'm gonna do, so it doesn't get lost, because we're gonna get a lot of comments when it's my turn, I'll go over the Twitch comments real quick. So just a couple of ones on Twitch here. We had Lexi say on Twitch, very much enjoyed both episodes. Drunk Michael is my spirit animal. And then NY Rowlite said, I'm glad the first 2 episodes were aired separately. We need as many weeks of new Trek as possible in the hell that was 2020. So that I totally agree with that as well. That makes sense. So
Lillian, I do have to correct you. It wasn't Drunk Michael. It was Mahikel.
it was Michael. Sorry. Hi,
She went-
Michael. She was high,
Damn.
not drunk. Correct. I am
welcome.
mistaken.
Well, I loved both episodes, but I think it was for the best that they were separate, because I have the feeling that people had time to talk about the first episode and how amazing it was. So at least for me, it was very good that they went separate.
I agree.
Yeah.
Excuse me one sec. Yeah, I think it was totally, it was totally the right idea to make them separate episodes instead of dumping them both off, considering like how kind of encapsulated each episode was in that. We had Michael's story in that, and then the story of the Discovery crew in that. And I think giving them like that week to play out between each other and that gave everybody like a chance to breathe and kind of absorb this new atmosphere and that they had kind of plunged everybody into.
Mm-hmm. So this was my favorite season premiere of maybe any Trek, but definitely Discovery. And on the second one, I love the Western theme, that saloon scene, with the swinging doors. Like it had the thematic elements that were fantastic. As far as them being together, I love binging in general, but getting to savor an extra week of Trek this year was worth the wait. And definitely, we don't have Trek anymore. I miss it. And that would have happened sooner had they been released together. So yeah, I'm glad they spread it out.
I also agree that this was like one of my favorite openings. I think it is the best like one for Discovery, I think. And I think it worked really well as being a 2-parter episode. Like sometimes there's 2-parters that you're like, did it really need to be a 2-parter? Or like one's really strong and the other one's kind of meh. But I liked both episodes together, and they had so many of those like parallels. Because you're like, oh, Michael crashed, and now the Disco crew like just arrived and their ship's wrecked. And as much as at the time I was like, oh man, I want the next episode. Why couldn't they put these together? Like I totally get when they did those like 23 weeks of Trek. It's better to have spaced it out, but even then, sometimes I'm just like, wow, that would have been a really cool like movie length amount of 2 episodes. So I think it's the smart decision on their part, because they already knew pandemic, we got to stretch this out for as long as we can, and it was smart.
Yeah.
And subscription money.
Yeah, that's how they always are.
Yes.
You want data access? So next we had Michael was basically reunited with the crew of the Discovery and willingly gave the chair to Saru, which I love Saru, so that was kind of heartfelt for me. And they kind of explained what the burn was, or at least the initial like idea of it. So upon arriving at Earth, it's very quickly apparent that it's not only not the home that they originally thought they were reuniting with, it's also no longer the home of Starfleet or the Federation. So this episode marked our introduction to Adira as well. What do we think of this twist on the introduction and the introduction of their character?
I really love Adira. I love and then I also, as you really love Saru, and I love that the main captain on a ship is not a human.
That was definitely awesome.
But I really thought it was an interesting way of introducing Adira, and then it turns out like, oh, they're the way to solve the mystery that we're trying to solve, which I thought was a really good way of introducing them in a way that like it makes sense that they like have hopped onto the ship. Because often on shows, I feel like there are new characters here and they're just joining the main cast, and we don't know exactly why they're coming.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of broke my heart, but in a way that made sense that like Earth is a little different in this time period. Like I was like, it makes sense, but I'm not happy about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like that because Earth was so different, the stakes were really raised just seeing that, knowing that Starfleet wasn't there anymore. Like something, like it was so early in the season, we're like, wow, something really bad must have happened. Like something to the point that Starfleet had to leave. And I thought that was really great. It was nice seeing Earth not being that shining beacon of, hey, where's Starfleet? Everything's perfect here. And let's see, the reuniting with the cast was probably one of my favorite scenes in the season. Like seeing all these people come together after going through all that trauma, and just it felt like such a good family atmosphere. I don't know if that's the right term, but it felt like a family coming together, and it was such a beautiful moment. I know we all cried when we saw it.
Oh yeah.
And you know, Saru, what can you say? We love him, and having him be captain. I wanted him to be captain a lot longer, but you know, at that point I was like, yay, a season of Saru as captain. Adira, I loved how unique that character was and how impetuous and smart, and really at that time a foil to Stamets, because he hadn't met anyone that was like a mini version of himself. And just seeing that play off each other was so funny.
Yeah, that vibe
so
check
good.
was intense.
Yeah, was that also the episode where Jet Reno was high?
I think it was the
yeah, I think it was like
before.
3 or
It was episode 2 when they're still like getting Disco
they're
up
still
and
getting
running.
into
Oh yeah, because
I don't remember
was still like
thinking
stabbed, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, because
Just crawling around, bleeding out.
because she calls Stamets Bobcat, and he's like, Bobcat. She's like, I don't know, I'm on drugs.
Yeah.
But yeah, more Jet Reno.
Yes, more Jet Reno. I too love Saru, but I think everyone knows also how much I love Michael and how happy I am that she is in the captain's chair. Now, having said that, I think everybody on our show wanted Saru to get that chair. So when Michael was just like, no, it's you, it's always been you, like Eric said, we all cried. It's such a beautiful moment. He's earned that chair. And even though he doesn't have it by the end of the season, getting to see his journey in it was just fantastic. Them all hugging and reuniting in the transporter room. I don't think that the first 3 episodes of a television show have made me cry as much as Disco did. Just like it was too, and especially the whole conversation between Tilly and Michael. And it's like, you left us, right? Like you let us go. And Michael, she doesn't need to say anything. She's just like, yeah. It's such a I get goosebumps just talking about that moment. It's just so beautiful, and honest, and just oh, I loved it. As far as Earth and being different, I like that too. Listen, we're 900 years in the future. All things fall, and Earth being a little bit more on the defense and the offense, it was a nice touch. But you know, we also get that throwaway line in there that Earth is self-sustaining. So they've really turned the planet around, even from what we saw in the 23rd, 24th century. So I think that's awesome. And I'll kind of go along with Twitch here. NYRLite says, I'm wondering if the finale of season 4 will see Earth rejoining the Federation. And I think a lot of what we're going to see, getting a little bit ahead of season 4, will have to do with what's Earth's role in this. Rob said Earth retreating into itself is very timely for the state of the world when this was being written and filmed in 2019. So I totally agree with that. As far as Adira, just what a beautiful actor, what a beautiful character. They're just amazing, from their intro to hiding in a Jeffries tube to just messing with all of Disco's engineering stuff and making a new interface for Stamets. Adira is wonderful. I can't wait to see more of them next season. Just absolutely fantastic.
Well, I love the fact that Saru is the captain. I think it was the start of a new journey for him, a very interesting journey that it will continue next season, I think. And I also love how Adira and Stamets, they click for the first second they are together. And I think it was very good to see Earth at a defensive state, because when something real bad happens, people get defensive. I think it is appropriate that Earth is shown like that.
Yeah, definitely. You can see in times of crisis how people do get like that. We've seen it this year.
Yeah, this year and the past 4 years, honestly. So, that's a great point, Lewis.
I have next.
You are.
It was a dark twist in that the fact that Earth was no longer the host of the Federation and then had retreated, not just retreated, but those broad hints of nationalism and that behind this retreat. We knew, like, just seeing that this was a very dark chapter of history, and that the Discovery crew had walked into. Love the introduction of Adira, and that young blood on a series like this is always always very welcome in that, and it was a great way of getting one of our favorite canonical species back into the series. And Saru as captain, and that it was beautiful to see him. Even though we know eventually he would depart for something else, and that I love seeing him in the captain's chair and that.
Yeah. So I thought Adira was fantastic. They are so smart and open, and I hope they bring in a new audience to Trek. Michael has grown so much during the show, and to hand that command over to Saru so easily, it showed her humility and her maturity. And seeing Earth that way was kind of disappointing to see how much it had changed. It kind of reminded me of going home to places that I've lived as a child and then moved away from, and realizing how much they've changed. And it kind of had that same feeling for me.
Yeah, I agree. You guys know how much I love Doug Jones and Saru, so I was all crying when she handed in the chair and basically said, like, it's you, it's always been you, this is what you deserve. I think it's also, I really do love Michael as well, and wanted her and expected her to get the captaincy so early in the season. So when I saw that, it was also like a realization that not only has she grown so much as a character and was able to be humble in the way that you mentioned, but also she realized that she wasn't there yet. Like, after everything that happened in the first 2 seasons, like, it seemed like she would be there, but having that year where she basically had to survive without everybody, and she had to change her way of life and really question if she was, like, part of the Federation anymore, if that kind of aligned with her morals and values, was really interesting to see. And I liked that added to her character arc throughout the season, where by the end, as an audience, and she knows, like, this is where I belong, I do deserve this. And, like, it would be like the same as, her turning the chair to Saru in the beginning of the season. He would basically say the same to her and be like, it's been you, it's always been you. Like, that's basically how it is by the end. And I'll rant more about Adira when we get into the next episode, because y'all know how I feel about Trill. But yeah, all I can say is Adira, they are adorable. Shut up! I needed my space gaze to happen. I used to use the meme all the time. People would be like, why do you love Star Trek? And I'm like, gaze in space. And they were like, what? Because there's only like 2. They're husbands. And now I was like, we have so many. You don't even know. We got hidden gaze. We got canon gaze. We got all the gaze. So yeah, great introduction. I was like, who's this little bean? Why are they on this ship? What are they up to?
Was that a hidden pun in there, Brittany? Great introduction. No?
If you have to ask, it means you didn't pick up on it. I picked up on it.
Before we get to the next part, I have to read one amazing comment from our Twitch that Lexi Dent wrote, which says, Saru is the Biden before we get AOC.
Oh my God, the gateway.
The gateway captain.
Oh, I love it.
Anyway,
all right.
I digress.
So the next episode, the hunt for the Federation and Starfleet headquarters takes a detour to Trill, who we learn are not faring well, with many symbionts killed during the burn. We also get Adira's backstory, their Trill awakening, and our introduction to Gray. How cool was it to revisit the Trill homeworld?
I loved revisiting. I think one of my favorite things about Discovery is when they revisit like things from past treks and are able to put a budget behind the effects.
Yes.
The main one for me are the Trill homeworld and like everything on Talos last season.
Yes.
I loved seeing it like with them able to like, you know, when you're not making like 27 episodes a season, like they were in Deep Space Nine. I loved everything about the Trill because it made sense to me because they were always very secretive and always a little shady about the symbionts. Although them being like, yeah, actually a lot of the symbionts died made me very worried for Dax.
Mm-hmm.
And we have not had any confirmation on that, so I've continued to be very concerned.
I like to dax them about that one of these days.
But don't they only live a certain number of lifetimes? And I don't think they would have made it to this time.
Don't
like
know.
Isn't it normally like 7 or 8
The Trill
lifetimes?
worm their way into your hearts.
Get off, Rich.
The only thing I remember is like them being like they're extremely long lived, and I was like, "Is this
I don't
like?"
think they've given us a max yet.
Yeah, I was like, "Is this like Doctor Who where they had a max and then they were just like, no, we'll extend that. Don't worry about it."
Peter Capaldi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The budget.
And then I love Adira's backstory, and it makes sense to me even like that medicine would have like changed enough that like a human might be able to actually carry a symbiont now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was neat.
They
Yeah.
symbiote to be able to. Who are we squidding? Anyway, next person, go.
I was waiting for the button to be pressed. But
I can't use all of them when we're still in the first act of the pod. I just can't do it.
Trouble with troubles.
I already used the first new one, and I think it went over everybody's head.
It was because we were all talking. We were all excited at the time because it was the first one. I like this episode. I thought it was really cool. Like Rachel said, going back to these planets and seeing a new spin on it is always really cool on any show, but even more so in Trek, especially with the money. Yeah, the money. They didn't really like. We had heard about the burn the last couple episodes, but to hear the extent of how devastating it actually was, and like I still don't like the name of the burn. Like they should have named it something else. But to hear how widespread it was, especially to this one planet that we held near and dear to our hearts in Trek, was just heartbreaking.
Near and dear to our hearts.
Shut up, Wesley.
This like the whole the pool sequence, and then going into it, and the special effects just in that, and seeing it reach out, those little tendrils reach out to different lifetimes, was so good. And like just the meaning behind all of that was beautiful, and seeing Gray for the first time was amazing. It was such a good episode. I love this episode. It's one of my favorite.
Yeah, you had tendrils. You had at least 10 trills. You were fun.
When do we do the 30-second penalty box? When does that happen?
Whenever my question's not up next.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm not like the Trill aficionado like Brittany is, but I did love this episode as well. The Trill pools were so cool. What we didn't really talk about yet was Michael in this episode, showing that she has been gone from Starfleet for years. So when the Trill dudes attack her and Adira, and she shoots first and asks questions later, and Adira's like, "That's not Starfleet protocol," and Michael's like, "Nope, it's not."
Michael's like, "Starfleet? I don't know her."
I liked seeing a little bit of like that dissent that Michael has about, the fact that she was a courier for years. Like that doesn't get touched upon enough this season, that she was a courier. She probably did a little bit of shady things that we might find out about next season.
Yeah, Book was a curry him. She was a curry her.
I hate you. This was just such a cool episode. The visual effects, just remember guys, this was done in home. So all those visual effects inside Adira's head, seeing all of their past lives and they're meeting Gray. And what was the admiral's name?
Vance?
Sorry, Senatol.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like the admiral later.
No, not
I was like, it's
not,
Vance. We make
not
this joke all the
Admiral
time.
Vance. No, I loved everything about that. And then, I love the character of Gray, and I can't wait to see more of them next season as well. So, just real quick, going to our Twitch. Rob says Trill symbiotes, just by nature of what they are the perfect way to re-examine and tear down gender and sexuality. That's a great comment. Wow. Well done. Joe says, I love the Trills. I was glad that they were the first ones they said that had rejoined the Federation in the finale. So awesome. Yep.
Just so you guys know, the T in LGBT actually stands for Trill. Just throwing that out there. We've been new since the 90s.
Well, I love the fact that we saw again Trill, because it was one of my favorite races from Deep Space Nine. So I hope next season we are going to see more of them. I don't know if they have plans for that, but I really hope so.
Me too.
So I didn't have the background with the Trill that I think some of you guys do, because I'm just watching Deep Space Nine now for the first time. So hope I can still sit here with you guys. But I was really surprised how violent they were because of that, because I think I'd only seen a couple clips of Jadzia Dax, and I was like, wow, she seems really sweet. Like, I bet all Trill are like super kind. And
I mean, Dax dated a Klingon. She kicked his ass. Like,
yeah, I didn't know that. So it's just like, yeah. So that was all very shocking and surprising. And but after that, when we get in the pool, I loved how surreal and whimsical the whole theme of that episode was. I loved it.
Go
I
ahead,
think
Paul.
Go ahead, bud.
That's it. Revisiting the Trill home world, it was amazing, and it was a wee bit frightening in that, considering like the kind of hierarchy in that, and the way they were very, when they met Adira in that and found out like that they weren't exactly Trill or a proper host in that, it's like they were pretty much ready to kill them.
The homophobia was real.
Homophobia
Yes,
almost
transphobia. Yeah, it was real.
Yeah. It was also fascinating the way the burn affected them. It affected them in such a unique way in that, most of my experience with the Trill goes back to like TNG and that episode and it's like how time is such a factor in that, and making sure that the symbiote gets to their new host and that, and with the, just like even thinking about like no warp speed in this society, and like the devastation it must have wrought upon their people. I love the pool sequence. It was great, and it was such a great callback to the mycelial network and that, and the way like these kinds of things and that function on in different levels. And the introduction of Gray was fantastic and set up a mystery I hope is going to be better explored in the new season.
This episode definitely goes down as being one of my favorite Trek episodes, if not my favorite Trek episode. I might be biased because I love Ian. But also, like, I thought Blue and Ian did just fantastic work in this episode. I mean, Sneakwa as well, because Michael was really like the driving force in pushing Adira to really confront like the whole idea of having past lives and, really connecting to being a Trill. I will say it was a tall order to do. I saw Julian's head already dropping.
Wait, Brittany, hold on 1 second.
It's fine.
Just shut up.
Sometimes the anticipation for your reaction makes me laugh. Now I don't even know what I'm saying. Anyway, being the resident Trill sergeant that I am, I loved getting to see more of the lore. It was devastating when I heard that a lot of them died in the burn. Like, I just started crying. Because my mind immediately was like, but Dex. We'll see. We'll see. But the backstory, man, this is the episode that literally I think I cried the entire episode. Like, from a certain point on, just like my shirt was just soaked. I was crying like every 10 minutes for some reason. But it was so beautifully shot and executed. Like, acting, lighting, like everything across the board. Writing, just and the music. The music was so good in this episode. So good.
Jeff Russo.
Yeah, Jeff Russo killed it. Everybody killed it. And they also trolled it. More at 11. Okay, so we finally reached the Federation and Starfleet HQ, but it's a much diminished version than the one that we're used to, obviously, throughout Trek. And it's much more reserved, which we've talked about a little bit. We learn more about the temporal wars that were first introduced in Enterprise, and Discovery and her crew have to earn their way into the fold, since technically, them just being there is a violation of the temporal treaty. Fun stuff. I mean, Janeway pretty much messed up the temporal stuff all the time. They were
All
like,
the
literally, don't run into this woman; she will fuck shit up. Oh, sorry, mess
It's
things
okay.
up. Sorry, I got
We
really
can edit it out.
I messed it up. Yeah, Janeway will mess things up. So this episode also lays down the groundwork for Michael becoming captain at the end of the season. Question mark? It kind of does. And were we on Discovery finally finding, quote, home by the end of this episode in the series? It's the 5th one.
I at the time was unsure whether they had found home or not, because I did kind of understand why they wanted them to suss them out, being like, that's a really interesting story. Is it true? What I found interesting was I just rewatched the episode with a friend who's watching the season for the first time, who straight up asked me if Admiral Vance was evil, and I said no, and they didn't believe me. So and I was like, I can't blame them, because at the time I was like staring at him like, you're really shady, and I don't know.
I don't think any of us were sure about that until the last scene.
Yeah.
Oh, I could say on my part, at some point I was like, okay, I don't think he's evil, but now I'm convinced he's gonna die. And when he survived, I was like, whoa.
Well, it's one of the tropes, right? He's either a bad admiral, a good admiral who's gonna die. There's never an in between in Trek.
I think his survival is the biggest plot twist.
Yeah.
Admiral, and everything in between.
Yeah, but I did understand why they were like a little unsure. Like, we've been watching these people for like 2 seasons and some episodes at this point, but they're just like, this lady claims to be Spock's sister, who we've never heard of. What's happening?
Yeah.
The Kirk response. Wait, you have a sibling?
Yeah.
Try again.
Why was this never brought up? I have a friend who's watching Discovery for the first time and hasn't really watched the original series at all. And when I brought up the Spock had another sibling, they thought I was joking.
Oh no.
They were like, what?
Poor Cybok.
And she's here to Spock your world.
Eric, did you get your package?
I don't know. I haven't checked my mail in like 2 weeks. I probably should do that.
Good lord.
Canadian mail is terrible. But anywho. So this episode, it was a long road getting to Starfleet's Apple store. So it was nice.
From there to here, you mean?
From there to here, but it was a long time.
Their
too.
time was finally there.
It was their time.
You know why they got there? They had faith.
Of the heart?
Of the heart?
The heart?
I'm mad
just
that I
going
had to
where
play
their
into
heart
that
would take
joke.
them.
Happy 20th birthday, Enterprise.
Rob did not appreciate that in the chat. I thought there were so many things that I never thought that Star Trek would ever talk about again, and one was Enterprise. So the fact that they mentioned the temporal wars and how, I guess, integral it is to where they are as Starfleet at that time, I thought was really cool. Again, Dadmiral, I love him. Sexy Dadmiral that we all thought was evil, but ended up being such a good part of one of my favorite parts of the season. Let's see what else. Michael being captain, yeah, I think we all sort of figured that out. And I like this episode. I thought seeing the new Voyager was cool, and seeing like the new designs and the matter, the programmable matter.
the programmable.
I thought that was really cool. seeing that.
Attached nacelles, programmable matter. Come on, man. It's Star Trek. Get on our level.
My bad.
Wow. I too really enjoyed this episode, and my favorite part of it is seeing Michael take command of Discovery while Saru stays behind. And it's something they talk about, I believe, in the last Ready Room of the season, how even though Michael at points throughout the show, I think, has been in command for moments here and there, this was her first like real, like, she has taken Discovery out on her own, and yet she still doesn't sit in the captain's chair. And I found that unique. Remember, like, no, Michael has never ever sat in the captain's chair until she got promoted. I always thought that was really interesting. I love seeing in her command, though, because it starts to show from things in the previous episodes where the crew questioned some of Saru's orders, that this crew, even though Michael's made some mistakes, they just have this complete and total devotion to her. And she commands loyalty in a really organic way. And I think that's also part of the reason that she's going to make a good captain when we see that in season 4. So I love seeing her take command in this episode. Like Eric, Eric's an Enterprise fan. I am not an Enterprise fan, but I do love
Eric is the Enterprise.
The Enterprise fan. I do love that they integrated the temporal wars in there, and how they're saying, like, you're not supposed to be here. It is against the law for you to be here. So we're going to give you a new registry. We're going to make up a backstory. It's all going to be good, but you have to earn your spot. And I really like that. As far as Vance, there's that funny meme going around, like, your sexual orientation is the cast of The Mummy. That's accurate, because Odin Fur is just, I love him. And he is probably like my breakout character of the season. So getting his introduction was also really awesome. Let's see. NYRL real quick on Twitch says, cynically thinking they got rid of the only people who could have plausibly replaced Michael as first officer. I guess they're talking about Non, I guess.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Nan.
So I might have missed that. So, yep.
Nan was like, let's get this bread, guys. And took off. That's a food pun, guys. Be proud.
Well, I love
It's
the
funny.
new design.
Yeah, definitely.
I love the new design of the Federation headquarters. I was curious what the design will be at the beginning of the season, because I thought we are going to see the new Starfleet and Federations. And I really love it. And also, I was not sure if the Federation won or lost the temporal wars. I think they never say that.
That's an interesting point, Lewis, right? Like, can you win a war that's based on time? Like, did anybody win? It sounds like there was maybe an armistice or a truce.
But eventually someone was like, we have to stop doing this.
Did it
Yeah.
end in a time? Wow.
Yeah, maybe.
You could tell it's about
Maybe, maybe that is why you cannot time travel anymore. I think the winners makes the rules now. So I don't know if the Federation was the winner or not.
Real quick on Twitch, NYRLite hasn't answered. They said that Enterprise said that there was a truce to the war. There wasn't a clear winner. So there's that answer.
That's good.
Yes.
And also, I think, I don't know if these episodes mark the path for Michael to be captain. I think she's the most experienced of all the crew to understand what is happening in the 32th century. And Vance knows that. But at this time, he doesn't want to say that. But he knows that Michael knows.
Mm-hmm.
Alex.
Yep.
So for me, watching this episode, the biggest standout for me was the whole, docking bay scene, and that everybody's just peering out the windows, looking at everything, and that, and it was such a wondrous scene, and that, and everybody was just in such an awe. And that the entire time I'm watching it, I had just this feeling of dread. I was just thinking, what's going, when is the shoe going to drop? And when they were actually met by Starfleet and by Admiral Vance and that, it's like they just seem like such unwanted things in this timeline, especially when you find out that they're considered criminals of a time war that they seem largely unaware of.
Well, they passed by it.
Anyways, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess my other favorite, the biggest thing for me from this episode was the introduction of David Cronenberg.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. He's,
We still don't know who he is.
We really don't, do we?
Yeah.
They should have
President.
called Starfleet Cronenberg because it's basically a whole village of Chrome, right?
I'm glad they left it mysterious in that. I think he's such an omnipresent kind of character in that. He really doesn't need like a clear definition on that. We just know that he's important and that he seems to be very much more knowledgeable about things that they aren't. I don't know what else to say. It was a good episode all around.
I wasn't sure if we should trust Admiral Vance for a long time. So for this episode, I was watching him pretty closely for a lot of the season. But also in this episode, we had that scene with Georgiou blinking her eyes. And I thought for the longest time that David Cronenberg's character had like switched her out with a hologram in that room because they had these great holograms. And I just could not have been more wrong about any of my theories.
I think we were all wrong when it came to those kind of theories, right?
A lot of people thought we had a Georges Faux, so get it? Faux isn't false.
I think I got like half a theory right the entire season.
Half a theory.
Marcie, do you have any more? Sorry.
I'm good.
Okay, I wanted to make sure. Yeah, I didn't mind how the Federation looked. I liked it. It looked so sleek and so futuristic where you're like, I believe they jumped forward 900 plus years. This is crazy. I like seeing all the different ships, the fact that they had Voyager there and Nog. That was just so exciting to me because I was just like, I get that reference. And yeah, Voyager made it back to Earth and is still kicking all these generations later. It's pretty great. I liked the, I guess, reference in general to the temporal wars because while I haven't watched Enterprise, at least I've seen Voyager and some other things where they reference, the fact that the temporal agents exist. So that's cool. And I'm trying to think. I also thought Vance was suspect at first, to use Among Us terms. He was acting pretty sus. And I was like, is he venting right now? What's going on? But yeah, I'm glad he ended up not being a trope because Star Trek already has so many of them. And as fun as they can be, sometimes you're like, please, just this once, let us have a good admiral. Yeah, overall, I liked it. I liked not knowing exactly like if we could trust the Federation or not because we're just like, oh man, are they secret baddies that caused the burn? What's going on? They don't trust us, but to be fair, we're not trustworthy because we just popped out of space from a completely different time. So we're not a reliable source at all. But you're like, dang it, man, trust us. So yeah, I liked it. Pretty sweet.
Thanks. So some episodic Trek came next, episodes 6 through 8. They brought a return to past Trek form, as these episodes feel a bit more episodic than serialized, while also moving the story along with some threading. Sanctuary sees Michael disobey a direct order from Saru to go rescue Book, and we meet Rin. They rescued them from Osira's nephew, Tolar, with Georgiou in tow. How do we feel about Michael's first major moment of independence and the first promise of our big bad this season in Osira?
I really liked actually how like Michael's like first like showing of how she's changed was handled, because it makes sense from the Michael of season 1 and 2 still that like she went to go save someone. She's not just rebelling just to rebel. Yes. She's always, I mean, to her own temperament, always trying to save everybody.
She never gives up.
Nope, never gives up, never surrenders.
Never back down, never surrender.
And I also liked how it's dealt with, like when they get back, where they're like, we don't even disagree with you, but you can't, like, there's a command, if you would like talk to the admiral, like this might have been handled differently. And like I think my favorite part is that Michael herself is even like, no, I messed up, but it was something I had to do. But I really love the introduction of Rin. I love Rin so much, and I wish
Yes.
he'd stuck around a tiny bit longer and was a little less obliterated, basically.
Yeah, disintegrated.
Disintegrated.
He's Noah Moore.
Oh.
Aw.
Womp, womp, womp. Noah, if you're listening, sorry, bro.
Oh God.
Man, Noah is never gonna come on our show ever again.
No.
After that.
Yeah, I love this episode. I thought it was really cool seeing Hamilton in all its glory. That's for you, Hawk.
Yeah.
I really liked Tolar, and I like Rin, and I liked the whole idea of the Emerald Chain. And then, like, they were really setting up Osira to be this awesome bad guy. It seemed a little late to introduce a bad guy just in my head, like when they did, and she didn't end up, or the Emerald Chain ended up being anything of any sort. But yeah, I liked how everything was introduced. But yeah, true to form, by Grabthar Hammer, I agree with Rachel that Michael, she was just doing what she does. She goes and rescues people, and Book had a special place in her heart, obviously, having spent the last year with him, and
Grudge.
yeah, and Grudge, right?
The queen.
Yeah, it's a queen, so you can't like let the queen be alone. But I like.
So you're saying she begrudgingly did it?
No, not at all. But I understand the pun. Yeah.
I've had this argument a bit on our Discord, and it's something I stand by, even though this episode I think needs to happen the way it did to move Michael's story along as far as becoming captain at the end. I still don't like the way they went about it, because Marcie, you hit it on the head because I wrote in our outline, I wrote quote unquote blunder, but
Yeah, I wasn't reading that.
No, I love that you changed its first moment of independence, because I agree with that.
Yay.
I don't think that she did anything wrong. This is a situation where Saru and Michael, and honestly Starfleet Command, didn't communicate. Michael asked for help. Saru didn't bring it up the chain. And this is also a moment I think people forget from the previous episodes, that Michael said, I'll be your first officer, but you have to give me a little bit of time, and you have to give me a little bit of a leash, like a long leash to kind of get through my crap, because I've been here by myself a year. And I don't think Saru ever does that. So she feels, I think, even though she does disobey an order, and I think there does need to be a consequence for that, I don't ever feel like she was stuck between a rock and a hard place there. She had to go. She didn't know how Vance necessarily felt about her. It was a lose-lose situation. I think the demotion didn't work for me because even Vance says, like, I probably would have signed off on this if Saru had come to me with it. Like, it's a failure on Saru's part, which I think is also interesting, because he does say at the end that he probably could have done better. But to just like demote her after, I think, an episode as first officer, that still doesn't sit right for me. As far as the actual rescue, and with Giorgio still suffering the effects of what's going on with her, and Tolar, who I think was a far better villain in the 2 episodes we got him, or 1 episode, than Osira. He was just fantastic. I really dug this episode. Just real quick on Twitch, Lexi she kind of was going along with what I said. Vance even says he'd have been cool with if they had told him. And then Rob says, I don't think that there's anything wrong with Michael going off book, but I don't like that she didn't bother to
Great,
ask
now I don't get to say my pun.
Yeah. Oh, boo. Ask any of her disco family for help. I think, to go off on that real quick, I don't think that she could have, because I think she was being a good quote unquote family member, not letting anybody else get in trouble for her actions, even though I don't think there was anything wrong with her actions.
Yeah, it was just a classic misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Well, I think Michael did what she always do, is taking action and then facing consequences, whatever it is. And I love the fact that Giorgio was with her because I always love to see Giorgio in this new environment and putting her experience as emperor for funny things. So I was really, really happy to see both in action. And I was really surprised to see Tolor and Osira because I wasn't expecting to have villains in this season. I was expecting to have maybe bad guys, but more mysterious bad guys.
Mhm.
Yeah.
For this episode, for me, was like it continued on this with these indications that Burnham, this year alone had changed her in that, and it's this thing that's been evolving over the seasons. And that, like, we've always known she's had this streak of independence to the character that has clashed with the formalism of Starfleet protocol, but her year away from Discovery, it really made me start to question whether she would ever be comfortable in the role of a Starfleet officer in this new world. Overall, this was probably one of the weaker episodes this season in that, with the whole kind of standard prison escape sequence in that. But we did get the introduction of Rin, and we did get some amazing like CGI work in that, seeing a book ship and that. So those were the biggest highlights of this episode for me.
I loved watching Michael grow as a character and take initiative with her creativity. I saw you call it a blunder in the outline. I just couldn't call it that because we all knew it was the right thing to do.
Yeah. No, I love that you changed it. I absolutely love that you changed it.
It was like Admiral Vance telling Saru later in the season that he had to take care of one of his crew members if he wanted the people under him to trust him. And I feel like that was confirmation for this scene that it was the right thing to do. And that's what she was doing here. I really feel like that's why she's going to be a great captain. And I did love Ren too. We were immediately drawn into his story. And, later on I was shipping him with Tilly. That's very sad, not going to happen. But maybe they can bring Noah back as something else and I can ship him in a new form. Give me something.
I think between the two of us, Marcie, I think everyone we shipped with Tilly died this season.
Oh, no.
It's killing
Rachel and I.
Oh,
Do we lose Marcie for a second?
maybe.
Wait a minute.
We'll give it a minute.
Will Marcie where this is going?
Yep. Oh boy.
But he is not the first person we shipped with Tilly to die, and so we're like, is that a death wish to characters?
Oh no.
Oh.
Marcie, are you back with us? All right, we're gonna wait a minute to get things back up.
Marcie, use the Marcelial network. Get back to us.
Be patient with us for a few minutes there, Twitch and YouTube. Sorry about that.
Do you want to go to BRB?
Up to you. Yeah, let's go to BRB now that she's gone. Yeah.
So we met Ren, and we were immediately drawn into his story, and I was immediately shipping him with Tilly, and they had this great chemistry, and then it just fell apart just like the first guy, because in that saloon scene, I was immediately shipping her with that guy who was showing her the programmable matter, and they were having this moment, and I was like, ooh, maybe like she could have someone in her life this season. And then he just like he's dead. So I don't know, like I need to stop
my God.
shipping people with Tilly or something, because it's like a death wish now.
Honestly, her name might change to Killy in this universe just for the fact that all my boyfriends die. They did have good chemistry, though. Hashtag
Maybe this could
married
be.
life.
Maybe this is Discovery's red shirt trope.
Oh God.
If you fall in love with that certain redhead, you'll die.
Yeah, right. Oh God. I don't even know how to like follow that up. I think that's hilarious. You guys have kind of already said it. I mean, we had Michael kind of disobey a direct order of Saru. I like the Giorgio-Michael relationship and those shenanigans. So immediately I knew when he was like, yeah, we can't do this right now. We got other stuff to do. I knew Michael was going to be like, well, this is my calling. And take off and be like, Giorgio, you Giorgio me one. Let's go. So yeah, they just go do their thing. I absolutely love Book. I love Rin. Rin there, done that. It's just so sad that he's gone. I'll stop making jokes about Noah, but I have no excuse not to.
Noah excuse.
Oh God.
Noah excuse. Anyway, it is tragic though. I will say I like Tolor a lot. I'm also sad that it hasn't happened yet in the conversation, but he also dies a little sooner than I would have wanted.
Yeah.
I did like the idea of them having that. I mean, I don't like the idea of a prison camp. I never want to say that. Let me rephrase. I liked the episode surrounding that and the introduction of like Rin as a character. I thought it all made sense, and it also showed kind of like the atrocities that the Emerald Chain commits, and that you know, you hear this name dropped of Syra, and you're like, ooh, this is so spooky. Who's this creepy villain, this mastermind behind the Emerald Chain? So I thought the setup was great. It was like setting up a bunch of dominoes, you know, and there were so many different forked paths, because it's like, well, what about this theory? What about this? What about this?
We
We'll
thought
see
for
how
the
it all-
longest time that we were going to know who Osira was first, like somehow.
Oh, just to
She
be like,
turns around
remember
and
random character B from
Yeah.
episode 2 of season 1?
Yes.
That's Osira.
Oh, I like literally when she turned around, I actually went, "Oh, I have no idea who that is." Like,
Is that
Oh.
Lois Lane? Oh, kind of.
sort of.
That was
That's
me.
a
I was
sort of
just
one.
like, why does she look familiar?
On Twitch, I just want to read this before you. Lexi said, "David Ajala is a book I would read all night."
Excuse me, sir. Is that
Oh.
PG?
Have we ever given our Twitch collective a soundbite?
We need to get them that
Well, here
bonk.
we go. Lexi, this is for you.
Shut up, Wesley.
You know how Book and Rin were in jail? Bonk. The horny jail.
I can't judge because I may have made like jokes about Anson Mount's name last season. So
I made quite a few, but Julian
Yeah.
loved them.
I did. I love them a lot.
So moving on. Everybody's favorite thing, unification. 3? What? That's right. 3rd season of Disco means we took unification to a 3rd level. And it's probably the episode with the most fan service. Because all those 3s, you can turn them into a fan. Yet it works beautifully. We learn... I can't even take myself seriously. I hate myself. we learned that hundreds of years after the fact, Spock was successful in reunifying, I want to just say reuniting, but reunifying the Vulcan and Romulan peoples, who now share Nivar, because he's never gonna give you up. The planet formerly known
Never gonna
as...
get you down.
Exactly. The planet was formerly known as Vulcan, obviously, but he can't believe they changed the name. In order to get some vital information about the burn, Michael must defend herself and her brother's legacy, while also coming to terms with the fact that Starfleet is her home, as well as her love for Book. Ooh. What are your thoughts? Remember Michael's mom? Wow.
I see that time it worked. See, she put her veil up, and I was like, I know who that is.
Yes, she didn't even have to. I was just like, Michael's mom, Michael's mom.
I really love this episode. You're right. Like I really enjoyed all the fan service in this episode. I really liked how it tied into Picard in multiple ways with the Vashan Heart, and they name drop Picard because it's from his the video of Spock. They say it's from his personal file, but I am not like ashamed to admit that every time I've watched this episode, that when Leonard Nimoy pops up, I started crying. Like Michael getting to see Leonard Nimoy's Spock and getting to see that Spock got to be an old man, like, and did all these amazing things made me, and it's currently, I think, making me very emotional. I
love to see it.
And I really, the fact that Spock was successful, I really liked, and I think it also makes sense with, as we're seeing Picard, of how like broken the Romulan people are at that time, that it's nice to know that there's some good in the future for them. I don't know how far it is, but it's not always going to be terrible. Although I mentioned this a lot in our podcast, I don't understand how it hasn't come up that the Romulans had a way to use black holes to go warp, so they didn't need dilithium.
Well, they're always up to that shady stuff, right?
Yeah, I would really like for that answer to be answered in season
like,
it's transwarp. That's the answer.
Yeah, I could also then say me like we actually the black holes got dangerous. Would accept black holes seem pretty dangerous to me
already.
Yeah, on their own, going warp by just harnessing a black hole seems insane.
Sidebar real quick. I'm pretty sure after reading the latest Picard novel, The Dark Veil, they confirm that when a Romulan ship auto-destructs, it just envelops itself into the warp drive, which is their black hole. It just, instead of like blowing up, it just that's
and
it.
they're like, look guys, a new jump point. A ship exploded.
Is that because they don't want to
Dark Veil was also what her mom was wearing, so
it's like the least dramatic way. Like like boop, we're gone.
Although I will say, I remember seeing like a Romulan ship do that on Star Trek Online at some point and being like, that actually is quite horrifying.
Yeah.
This wasn't really in the question, but I actually here to defend Tilly as first officer, considering in the Kelvin universe, Kirk goes from cadet to captain in less
just
time.
does what he wants.
Like, so I think if I can buy that, I could definitely buy Tilly.
It's rather Kirksome, but he does it.
She had years of experience.
Yeah, way more than Kirk. I love this episode. Unification 3 is probably one of my favorite Star Trek episodes. Star Trek, I always find it at its best is when they're mostly doing talking. And it's a lot of like political socio stuff, especially when it's one-on-one talking and it's like a group of people against someone. It's I love when writers get to work with these actors and have them be at their best. That about the fan service thing, I've had this conversation with a lot of my friends. There's good fan service and bad fan service where people are like, hey, you remember this guy? He was in the background in the cantina, in that one movie way back then. But this,
wrong one.
I didn't think it wasn't really fan servicey because it all was for a point in the episode. Like there were reasons why all of these things had to happen. And the fact that Spock, his dream came to be, like he got the Vulcan and Romulan people to come back together because they were in Nafar, wherever they were or are.
Yes.
It was.
I love that you used that joke.
I know. It was beautiful, and seeing Leonard Nimoy give that speech from Unification 2 was just perfect. I love this
Unification 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Unification 3 is my favorite episode of this season. Like Eric, it is probably one of my top 10 episodes of Star Trek ever. It's fantastic. Before I even go, I'm going to read NY Rowlight's comment because it's absolutely accurate. he said, I was so glad they showed Leonard Nimoy as opposed to an aged Ethan Peck, which they could have done, and I think that would have been a disservice to Leonard Nimoy. So the fact that they went this route, this is just a beautiful episode. I grew up on TNG, so before we even started recording our podcast for the Discovery episodes, when I saw that one of the episodes was named Unification 3, I just I lost it. I was like, this is they can't mess it up. They can do no wrong in this episode, and I'm so glad that I was right, because it's just so good. I forget the actress's name and I forget the character's name, but the president of Navarre, I thought that she did a wonderful job. I love her interactions with Saru, and I hope we get to see more of that. There's a lot of theories going around that Saru could be in an ambassador role, so to see, you know, them kind of play more off of each other, I think would be excellent. I totally agree. Tilly as first officer was the right move, 100%. But just the fact that Michael's story comes full circle, she's reunited with her mother, she's reunited with her people. Like, some people could say, well, she's really human at heart, like her mom even says in this episode. No, she was also raised on Vulcan. This is as much her home as Earth is. So to have that, I wish we got to go down to the planet. That's my only complaint about this episode. But it worked being aboard Discovery, what they did with like the hollow stuff, and just her defense and her mother being part of what are their names again, the Kuat Malat. I get goosebumps talking about this episode. But man, Rachel, like you said about, you know, name dropping Picard, and that it was Admiral Picard, and that we see Nimoy's speech, and Michael's reaction, getting to see that her brother was someone who was really important and did this amazing thing. I could talk about this episode for another 2 hours, so I'm going to stop.
Just to interject, Tara Rosling played President Tarina.
Thank you.
I just really liked your point about it being her home, because I find it weird if someone from multiple cultures, when someone tries to like pin them on one culture or the other, because I'm an interfaith relationship. My father's like Christian, my mom's Jewish, and I find it weird when it's like, you're only Jewish, you're only Christian. I was like, not how that works. I'm both.
No, I get that. I'm Jewish and my wife's Catholic, so yep.
Well, I agree with all of you. The episode was amazing. It was really great seeing Leonard Nimoy one more time. And I think it was the only time maybe they show on screen what they know about the future. I mean, the time after they left the 21st century, because they didn't even mention what happened to Pike. I know they are not going to do that, because that will be a mission for Strange New Worlds, the upcoming series. But I was a little surprised that they didn't mention if they read about the future or not. But maybe next season we will know. And I think it was like a very classic Trek episode about a trial and how you win a trial with your knowledge. And it was very, very great.
Yeah, I don't know what else I can add to this conversation. Yes, it was my favorite episode this season, and that yes, Unification 1 and 2 were these like some of my favorite TNG episodes, and like having Discovery directly call back to TNG and give us one final appearance by Leonard Nimoy. Like, what more can you ask for?
Yeah.
But just to piggyback on Eric and that, and what everybody else is saying, some of the strongest TNG, one of their greatest strengths in storytelling is discussion and discourse and ideas, and that, rather than just like pew pew action and adventure and that. And this episode explored that beautifully, in that, especially with Burnham at the end, and that it's when faced with this, with that kind of, I don't know how to say it, but like, faced with like a no-win situation in that, she chose kind of
Kobayashi
to,
Maru.
Well,
yeah,
and
exactly.
the respect of her crew that she has when she walks out too, right? Like they're fully behind her. They all rise for her,
Yeah.
and that's such a powerful moment. Oh,
I
Yeah.
know. But she chose to fight by not fighting back, and that she's like, if you won't give me the information I want, then I'll just keep going by myself. And I was just like, yeah.
Real
This
quick,
is-
sorry.
this is-
Oh, sorry, Talk. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's Burnham to a T. And that if you won't give me what I want, I will go at it my own way.
Yeah, there are just two quick Twitch comments I want to read that I thought were very important. One from Mag. I wonder if it really matters, going back to the first officer conversation, who the first officer is, given how well the Disco crew get along and trust each other. I think that's something to think about. And then where did it go? Lexi wrote this, and I think this is such a powerful moment. The last thing he told Michael, speaking of Spock, was, how will I find my balance without you? And then he helped bring balance to not only his people, but the Romulan people. Just it's I don't know, it's so beautiful.
Unification had so many great callbacks to previous Trek. And look, I'm totally fine with fan service as long as I am the fan being served. And
It's like, screw everyone else, just me.
It's me.
Best answer ever.
So for me, this worked really well. I liked watching Michael work through her emotions. And from this episode on, I really feel like she grew past that year that she had in the future alone. A lot of the darkness was taken away, and she was able to integrate better with the crew because she had a better handle on what she'd been through. I thought the politics worked really well in this episode, and I'm glad she reunited with her mother again. They had that moment of healing. It reminded me of that TNG episode where they put Data's life on trial with that awful scene where Data's arm gets ripped off.
Measure of a
Measure of a Man.
Yeah. So
My favorite TNG up.
I never remember titles, but I can tell you the one with Data's arm getting ripped off.
It's the only one I know the name of. Because I love it that much.
I agree with what everyone said. It's definitely, this is something that Trek handles well.
I agree. Oh man, I have thoughts about this, even though you guys summed it up so well. So it's like, what can I even add? I will say, one, you love a trial episode. This was such a good Michael episode. Like, to see her, I mean, we had so much in season 1 and 2 of her conflicting like her humanity with like her Vulcan logical side and things like that. But to see it also being brought so much into play because her mom, with those major Benny Gesserit vibes from like Dune, showed up and was like, oh yeah, you seem a little off. Tell me about it. And then immediately turns around the trial and was like, yeah, she's not okay. Let's like really dig into this. And she was just like, Mom, I'm on trial. And she's like, exactly, you're on trial with me right now. Like, I'm bringing up everything because if she can prove through all that she's still the right person to try and find out, you know, the cause of the burn and everything like that. It's just, oh, it was so good. I just love that because like I knew, I was just like, but her mom's got to do her job, right? And then her mom just straight up called her out in front of everyone, in front of Saru, Doug Jones himself, aka God, like everyone in that courtroom. And I was just like, how could you do Sneakwa like that? But she did. And I thought it was so great, you know, the fact that she knew jumping so far into the future and like she had that heartfelt goodbye with her brother. All of season 2, like all their interactions together, I thought were so amazing. And it's still crazy to me how well they did a relationship with a new version of Spock, you know, and having another sibling. So the fact that she got to see him, know that he had like this, you know, huge life in Starfleet and had that final moment where she got to see him actually grow older and have this full life, like, oh, this whole episode's so good. So good. I just want to like, I don't know, eat it. It's like a weird thing to say, but like it's so I just want to like fold it up and like keep it somewhere safe forever. I don't know. But it was a good one. It was a good up.
So we talked about some of this already. Sanctuary, the next one, gives us our first glimpse of Osira, her ship, the Viridian, and a glimpse of the means that she will go to when those under her defy her. We also meet more of Book's people, including his brother, Detmer also gets a chance to show off her skills here as she does some Han Solo type piloting. How was Sanctuary for everyone?
I enjoyed the episode, but as I said earlier, I was really convinced I would recognize the actress playing Osira.
Right.
I will say, if she's supposed to be Tolar's nephew, I would like her skincare routine.
She
Because
moisturizes. She definitely moisturizes.
so much. There's
Yeah, they
not
look
a
like the same age.
They look the exact same age. I was like, what do you mean
It's
you
that
raised him?
Orion's skin.
Yeah.
That extra like.
I was like,
padding they
I don't
did.
know if I looked more like Alphaba, would I like not age?
I mean, that's defying gravity, if you know what I mean.
It'll definitely make you popular.
My favorite movie is The Wizard of Oz, so I appreciate all of this.
You're welcome.
I did enjoy seeing, or like I liked that they showed that like here's what she does to a specific planet and how terrible it is. It reminded me of kind of how you would like get glimpse of how bad the Dominion was, or is Marcie still? So I don't want to in the middle of Deep Space Nine, so I don't want to go too. But by just seeing like, oh my god, I can't remember the name of the episode where Bashir's healing people.
Oh, I don't remember the episode. I don't know any episode names. I'm
The
terrible.
Quickening.
Yes, thank you.
There you go.
Oh, there you go.
Quickening. And I thought it was really interesting seeing like I'm still confused how Book got his new name, but
That's for next season.
I think so. But I like enjoyed seeing like here's where he came from, how he ended up where he is, and how he like tried to break away but couldn't completely. That said, I did love Detmer getting to just go full on like pilot badass. Made me I was like I want to see her like somehow have like a race with Tom Paris.
Oh yeah.
I have so many
Yeah.
emotions about Detmer. I think Detmer's the greatest pilot to ever happen in Star Trek, but I
She's
digress.
amazing, but nothing quite beats Grudge like jumping on Rid's lap and that face.
What is
I
this?
So
we
good.
made the joke on the pod, like from Captain Marvel, when Grudge jumps on him, and you're just expecting that it's a flirkin.
It's a flirkin.
Oh, at least Grudge didn't take anybody's eye out.
Yeah.
That we know of.
Yeah, that we know of.
Maybe that's why Michael is wary of Grudge.
Yeah, right.
Maybe.
She's seen things.
Terrible things.
I love Detmer in this episode. She went so Starbuck in this episode that it was so awesome. Just see that.
Yes.
I want to see her in a Viper, just like blowing stuff up. See that? That was the self censor.
Self-censored stumble?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I liked this episode. It felt like old Trek where they just go down to a planet to learn about a new species. And this was also the one where I was like, well, Book's definitely going to be the person that's going to, do the jumps later in this season, just because when him and his brother decided to move everything with their powers, I was like, oh, this is setting up that later, isn't it? Yeah. And I don't know. I like the relationship between Book and his brother. That was really cool. I like both of those characters. I thought that he would have came back later in the season. He seemed really important, but
That's what happens when you have 13 episode seasons, right?
Yeah, there's.
You're like,
Yeah.
and maybe next season.
yeah.
Look, we were also convinced Non would come back. And
Yeah.
we're genuinely confused when she didn't.
Yeah, I
And
knew
it
she was
seems like
going to
a
show up
non-issue
in
to
that
me.
final episode. I just knew it. I was wrong about everything.
This. Go ahead, Eric.
Oh
Sorry.
no. Yeah. No. Other than that, I thought this was like, again, the special effects this season are amazing, and this like seeing all of those creatures was just beautiful. It was a beautiful moment on Star Trek, and one of those classic
You
beautiful
mean the
moments.
transworms? I kept wanting to like see them in their own rave, be like,
Oh boy. Sanctuary is not one of my favorite episodes of the season. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just I think it is very much like one of those episodic episodes of Star Trek, right? It just kind of moves things along, but it kind of can stand on its own. Part of the reason I don't like this episode, it does give us our first glimpse of Osira and a first glimpse that she's just not gonna live up to the big bad I think that the season was making her out to be. And I gotta say, I don't know if it helps that Detmer wrecks her ship, like on the first go with like a much smaller ship. Rin can know all he wants about it. That did not help Osiris' cause. Having said that, Detmer is one of my favorite characters on Discovery. So getting to see her in that moment and finally get some of like that, stuff that's been in her head just out by, tearing apart the.
Well, that's cybernetic enhancements. You can't take those
okay.
I'm just kidding.
I know. The bombardment, like special effects stuff was cool on the planet, but I just I didn't really feel it this one, save for Detmer and Rin and Rin's thumbs up at the end where he's like, I did nothing. The cat jumped on me. It's fine.
It's like my favorite GIF to use when Noah says anything he tweets, and I'm just like.
Well, I think it was a very good episode. It was fun, and I love the fact we had some more backstory about Book and Detmer. I really love the special effects on the planet and the space battle. I think it is the first space battle of the season. In the first episode. We have one, but this one was much better, I think, and I love it.
Yeah. For me, the highlight was definitely Detmer's story in that, because in previous we'd seen signs of PTSD and that, and her role as pilot on Discovery, and that pilot suffering from PTSD is like one of the most disastrous cocktails you can throw into any sort of storytelling in that.
Right.
Especially following, do you guys remember like the dinner party in that? And
So good.
I know.
Stamets' blood is on the table. Yeah. Oh.
Oof.
I know. So for me, like having this kind of, flesh out the rest of that story, and then also basically like see her, getting past it and that, and kind of finding like her place in the new world and that, like, it's like, screw this programmable matter joysticks.
Yes.
That was it was great. The new exploring new worlds is always great. But I'm always reminded in this episode of when we first reviewed it, when Eric pointed out the technology that Book's people used in that was organic in nature.
The phaser rifles were really cool looking.
Yeah, made out of like some sort of wood. I just thought that there's just these little clever things in that. So it was a good episode all around. I enjoyed it.
I loved seeing Detmer having a blast flying Book's ship, and she'd just been through so much in season 3 with that head injury right off the bat, and she felt so responsible for so much of what happened. Every time something went wrong, she took that burden on her own shoulders. So it was a good release, and I love the scene with Michael and the little boy at the end with poor Linus peeling. She had this great moment and finally got to smile, and it was really cute.
I agree. So I agree that this isn't like one of my top episodes of the season, but I think like as far as the season's concerned, like I don't think there's a single episode that's bad, and I think we all agree with that. There's not like a 0 out of 10, right? But
Not
anyway,
a 0
we'll
out of
get
10,
there
but
when we get there. Yeah, we know Jillian.
You said there wasn't a bad episode this season.
Well, I mean, like you know what I mean? Like there wasn't one where it's just like we've seen bad Trek episodes.
That's
like
fair. Okay.
when you're doing a watch along or something, and then you're like, oh god, this one. Like it's no Alan Moran. So moving on.
Okay.
I think that episode is fun. Don't worry.
I also do not hate.
Have seen, and I have to say it's one of my favorites so far.
Well, yeah, because it's hilarious. It's just ridiculous. You're like,
I love. Like, there's a really thin line between bad Trek and like fun.
Oh,
like silly Trek.
Very thin.
Very thin.
Also depends on like
what
how
mood
late
you're
at
in.
night you're watching, what's happening, if you're watching
I'll be one of my favorite episodes of TNG is the Royale, because Data wearing that cowboy hat every time just makes me so happy.
Baby needs a new pair of shoes.
So I'll at least point out the things that I did like about this episode, because like overall I feel like it wasn't like it's so hard to follow up Unification 3, because that was just like
that's also the issue, right?
Yeah, so many amazing memorable moments, and then this one like it's largely forgettable, except for like obviously we have like the Osira reveal, which I agree. She doesn't live up to our expectations because I think they made a mistake when they just name dropped her. So then we built up this idea in our heads of like, oh my god, she's gonna be like, she's this threatening person. Then we see her and we're like, well, like I could throw her over a table. Like me personally, like I wasn't intimidated by her. That was not an innuendo. I just mean like I literally would have been like just shove. Like I don't know. Her ship was named the Viridian, which is just another word for green. So I was just like, oh, I get it. The Emerald Chain, her skin's green, her ship's green. Like, it's like classic, like comic super.
Not easy being green.
Ridiculous. Yeah, she was green with envy. That's why she really kills people. I liked learning more about Book. I thought it was really cool because we got that sort of like space druid vibe earlier on in the season. So it was cool to see more about like where he grew up, why things are that way. But definitely for this episode, what makes it for me is just Detmer, because the whole time we were so worried. We're like, can someone please like give her a hug? Like figure like Detmer needs help. Like I hope people are picking up on this. And everybody was dealing with PTSD throughout. I mean, they still are no matter what, because like this is Star Trek. Let's be honest, nobody is okay. But to really see her have that moment where she fully trusts herself again and just like wrecks everything as like a pilot, and you're just like, yes, Detmar, go! Like I was just like screaming for her, and I was happy. So I was like, I think you're gonna be okay now. I was so worried, but I think you're gonna be okay. So yeah, I liked it. Moving on to the next part. Woo! So the fun mirror episodes are next. Remember when these happened? Oh. So Terra Firma 1 and 2 give us the awesome surprise return to the mirror universe and Philippa as Emperor as a way to, quote, cure her from temporal dysplasia, which just sounds all sorts of fun and interesting. So,
painful.
Yeah, right? Mostly painful. So what did we think about not only getting back to go back to the mirror universe, which we didn't know if that was going to happen because we just leaped into the future and we're like, that was a big enough jump. Womp womp. But these episodes were also serving as Giorgio's exit from the show and a possible backdoor, no pun intended because they used a door, pilot for Section 31.
I really enjoyed these episodes because I was very surprised when she just walked into the mirror universe, and I really I really like seeing her as like actually being the Emperor, actually getting to see like Killy and Mirror Universe Burnham, because we actually hadn't seen them. We had seen our people pretending to be them and people seemingly buying that. The only thing that didn't quite work for me is I really expected Jason Isaacs to show up. Mm-hmm. I don't know why they kept name dropping Lorca.
They kept on doing it so much.
Yeah, I was like,
they even went on a mission to find him.
Yeah, I was like, could you not? I was like, at least maybe his voice? I don't know. I was genuinely am still confused why they kept bringing Lorca up.
Maybe they were supposed to, and then COVID happened. They're like, well,
maybe
he can't come to Toronto now to film.
Give him
recorded a voiceover in his closet.
A voice
green screen or something, right? He could.
There were so many different things they could have done, and it was so disappointing.
I was so genuinely confused when he didn't show up. I was like, why did you keep bringing him up? If they had, at the first episode, they'd be like, oh, Lorca's somewhere else, and then never brought him up again, I'd be like, oh, Jason Isaacs was busy, they couldn't get him back.
Maybe they wanted it to happen organically, and it never presented
just didn't,
you know?
That was like the one thing, but I also really appreciated, because I feel like I've been talking to people like, I like if we had thought Giorgio had changed, and I think I really liked using this episode to be like, she has. This is how like she's reacting in the mirror universe now. She actually has changed.
Mm-hmm.
She is not quite as evil as she once was. There is like hope for this character. And I actually really appreciate that this episode, in case that I think it did work well as an exit for the character, in case, I mean, knock on wood, hopefully the Section 31 show happens, but in case it doesn't, or in case there are people who watch Discovery that don't end up watching the Section 31 show, I don't love when there's crossovers that don't make sense unless you watch other shows. Like it always like I really like The Flash and Supergirl, and I was always annoyed once a season when I'd have to watch Arrow. Like
everyone felt that.
Yeah, by the time Arrow wrapped up, it was like, oh.
I didn't even watch it after like season 3.
That's
a good way to
go.
When Felicity got together, I was like, I'm done.
Yeah,
that's about when I fell off Arrow. But once a season, I would have to go and watch Arrow, and I don't love that. I like spinoffs and stuff, but I don't love that if they're so tied in together that you have no choice but to make sense of this show. Or, for instance, I have a friend who was just now watching all of Arrow. I'm not sure why, but that he like a couple episodes, he'd be like, "What's happening?" And we're like, "You have to watch this episode of Legends of Tomorrow and this episode of The Flash." And he's like, "Why is it like this?" So I like that it is wrapped up in a way that if you don't watch that show, you're not like, "What happened to Georgiou?"
Yes, I agree. I hate when shows have to are so, or even books or comic books, like the High Republic right now is really bothering me for that one reason. But
Don't you just that?
I like
in front of me. My friend is the host of that show.
I like that show. These episodes were such a surprise because I never thought they'd go back to the mirror universe, and the fact that they did it, and the fact that we get to tell Erin, our co-host who's missing, that she was wrong about Georgia.
Yes.
Over and over
that's
again.
always the best. Oh my god.
Like that'll put this episode in my heart forever.
I remember because she missed, right? She missed one of the episodes because she was sick, and then she came back, and I was like, "You just didn't want to hear you were wrong about Georgiou."
Exactly. That's why she's not here today, because we had to pull this up again.
She's like, "This is too hard."
Yeah.
This sounds hilarious.
So true. I liked how much Georgiou has changed over all of these seasons, and the fact that we get to see her sort of play off of her goodness. I'm gonna air quotes that with how
It's a low bar.
I don't want to say conniving, but she's so smart, and the fact that she used Saru and all of those people just to try and get Burnham to see the light. I thought that was such a good
truth
plan.
barbs.
I loved it. The truth barbs, yeah. What's her name? Philippa. Why is my mind blanking?
Michelle Yeoh.
Michelle
Yeoh
is a joy to watch in anything. And the fact that she got to put back on that killer eyeliner and everyone else got to do that, I was just like, yep, I like this episode.
I'm gonna rant
awesome.
about the outfits when we get there. Oh, it's so good.
I'm gonna steal that from you right now, Brittany, because I was always gonna start this before I even talk about the episode. Gersha Phillips.
Yes.
Holy crap. You are amazing. You're amazing. And the costume work on this season alone is fantastic. But the work that she does with the Mirror Universe outfits, just amazing. Listen, this episode, at least the first episode, is just it's fun. It's candy, right? Because we all love the Mirror Universe. Listen, the Mirror Universe, not to plug us too much, like just inspired new merch that we put out. It's like it's just
Julian's like
fun.
shameless plug.
We did shameless plug. It made us do, the whole video on how to do the eyeliner. Like the Mirror Universe is cool, and the fact that we got to go back there, not ever expecting to go back again, is just so cool. Georgiou's just kind of redemption, and the fact that she does have this good in her now is just it's so well done, and I just loved everything about being back, and I loved getting to see actual evil Michael, which was a treat, just an absolute treat.
Oh, I want to add off that. I love that we don't know where Georgiou went when she went back through the gate. Like that is so good because they can put her anywhere in the timeline, and it doesn't like shoehorn her into a time frame.
It can be like Legends of Tomorrow Star Trek version.
and
I would love that.
Yeah, I just want to read this one comment from NYRLite real quick. It would have been so dramatic. Okay, that's actually my last point that I want to make. To just bounce off everything Rachel said. Don't name drop Lorca 47 times in the span of 2 episodes, then not have the man show up. Come on. And NYRL, I said it would have been so dramatic if Mayor Michael had shot Mayor Lorca.
Ooh.
We all wanted to see it, and it didn't happen.
There's another season, guys.
Bad face.
Right.
Well, I think I understand why they didn't bring in Jason Isaacs. You can't really call him back to acting some scenes or maybe some lines in audio only. And you cannot do this episode without naming him, because he's part of the history of Emperor Giorgio and Michael. So I think
so many times.
Well, she was obsessed. She was in love, and she was like, "Mommy, let me date him." And she's like, "No, he's a jerk. You're gonna betray me."
No, he's grooming you. It's creepy.
Well, the solution for that was bringing him for a lot of scenes, and maybe that wasn't possible. You cannot not name him. So I think, well, this was the solution. I understand that a lot of people, including me, was disappointed because he didn't show up in part 2. I was expecting him or maybe Captain Pike. But it was a really good episode, both of the parts. And I think they are trying to answer a question that I have. The question is, people in the mirror universe are evil for their nature or because the universe is hostile? And maybe in Giorgio, we are seeing that she's understanding that a new way of life is possible. I don't think she's good now, but I think she is starting to think about another way of life, different that she had. And maybe Section 31 is going to address that, or maybe not, I don't know. But I hope they try to address that and make her character grow more.
Yeah, I never thought Lorca was showing up. It's, you know,
Neither
and
did
it's a good thing because like it wasn't about, you know, getting, you know, it would have been about getting Jason Isaacs back for a role in that. It's like, ooh, no, this was about Giorgio and that, and the proper send off for her and that,
Fair.
you know, because she's such a fascinating character in that. I mean, she's always been out of place, like in Discovery, you know, delightfully so sometimes in that, but in this new universe that they're in, you know, it was, you know, she was so out of place in that it was literally tearing her apart. And I, you know, so these 2 episodes were about exploring, you know, this journey for her and that, you know, it's like, who is she now and that, and it's like, if she was given the chance, could she just simply slip back into her former role as emperor and that, and just, you know, live out like, you know, live out her world according to like her desires or wills and that? Would she just simply slip back into being the evil person, you know? And we get to find out that no, it's like when she was introduced to Burnham, when she was introduced to the Discovery crew, and seeing like how, you know, there was, you know, life was different and what life could be in that, and it, you know, there was no way she could have slipped back into that role. Doesn't necessarily mean that she's good now, you know, but she got to see things from a different point of view in that. And I love the contradiction of the mirror universe and that, you know, in comparison to season 1 and that, where now she's the imposter. I think it was beautifully played out. It was a great send off for Giorgio and for, you know, Michelle Yeoh and that. You know, we pray she's coming back for as in some form or another for Section 31, or if that doesn't get off the ground, maybe she, you know, we'll see her again at some point in Star Trek. But, you know, I was glad she got like a 2-episode send off.
Okay, I'll start with a positive here. I loved the hair and makeup for these episodes and the fireflies. Okay. I'm going to echo the disappointment in that I really hoped for 2 solid episodes that Lorca was going to show up, even if it was just him running through the back of a shot or a voiceover or a cameo recorded on Jason Isaacs' iPhone that they turned into a hologram because the quality was so bad. I love JoJo's relationship with Saru in this, and that she kind of brings what she knows of him in. As to what Eric said, we don't know where JoJo went. And the bowler hat guy said she was going to a time before the mirror universe and the prime universe diverged. So I'm really curious what that means. And do we know exactly when the universe is separated? And what cool sci-fi thing could they add into section 31 just because that one little snippet of a line?
That's a great point.
I love the Mirror Universe. These 2 episodes I thought were super awesome. I love them as a 2-parter. And I know I said this before on our show, but I love Michelle Yeoh. Like I grew up doing martial arts, like watching tons of martial arts films, and like she's been a long time like role model for me and everything. So to see her actually have a role, and especially I think it's so important for like an Asian woman to have a role in like a sci-fi series where she's not like, yes, she's a badass, but she's able to do so much in this season where sorry, I just got to start. She's able to do so much in the season, like have so much depth to her character where she's not just being that stereotypical Asian woman who's a badass, if that makes any sense. The depth that she shows in especially these 2 episodes before her send-off is amazing. And you see the impact she's had on the other people around her. She has this like motherly relationship with Michael that grows throughout the seasons as well. And like this to me, seeing how she even treats Saru and does all of these things in the mirror universe, she's surrounded by all these familiar things. This is a life she once lived, and she still makes the choices to be the Giorgio she is now. And yes, morally, we don't know where she's going to be because she's always going to be that sort of morally gray character. But just to see the action she takes and so much she's able to do. She was able to be funny in this season, you know, joke around, be someone on the ship that even though she challenges sometimes Saru or, you know, the command for Starfleet because she's not really truly Starfleet. It's just nice to see that she was allowed to have that range because she is an incredible actress and she's not just, you know, this martial artist. Like, yes, she definitely is a martial artist, but I really enjoyed that. So for me, I thought it was the perfect send off for her character. Who else gets like a 2-episode send off in a Star Trek series? You know, that rarely happens unless you're like the main character of a you know, like you have to be a big person that people know a lot of. Most of the time you get obliterated in 2 seconds like Noah, but yeah, so I was just blown away and I cried, and as much as I'll miss Giorgio, I'm hoping she'll be in section 31 and we'll see where it goes next. So
All right.
yeah.
So let's jump right to That Hope Is You, episodes 11 through 13. Let's talk about the final 3 episodes. It was basically a 3-part finale. It really felt like that. It's hard to judge and review these episodes individually. Sukal, There Is a Tide, and That Hope Is You Part 2, which was from episode 1. And so that was part 2 from that. They wrap up almost every arc this season. The Cause of the Burn, Tilly's Role, Skill as EXO, Emerald Chains, Stranglehold on the Quadrant. This is a bit more of a free-for-all. What did we think of these final 3 episodes and Michael finally getting the chair?
I love these 3 episodes. And I remember these like first 2 of these 3 episodes just happened to come out on holidays, and I was like so glad when I was able to like slip away to watch them. I really thought like the 3 episodes serves like everyone in the ensemble at some point really well. I thought Tilly I think Tilly handles her first time in command remarkably well, considering how insane it ends up being. And I really love everything in the hologram, but mostly like seeing like Doug Jones's actual face, because I realized despite watching Doug Jones for decades, I had never seen him like act without a prosthetic on.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a really good way to show like, yeah, he's a really good actor. That like he doesn't need
Doug Jones is a god, an acting.
Oh, there
god.
it is. Oh my god.
I love that. I'm
apparently a super fan of Doug Jones. I didn't know, but I am.
Perfect. I love it. And I think and I really like. I had happened to recently have rewatched Starship Mine before Burnham went all diehard on Disco, and I loved that. I got to see they're like, yeah, Burnham's a badass, and we're gonna be able to show that off in a way that like really makes sense. The one thing, I know we mentioned this on this podcast, I really kept expecting Detmer and Awoshikon to kiss in that like one episode.
Stop.
Mhm.
Stop.
Needs to
Oh, he
happen
wants to
next
do.
season. Some
I
point.
need it.
I like really they kept having moments and they'd just be like, I love you all. And I was like, oh, I thought you were talking to Kayla.
I know that pause. I was just like, and she's like, all, and I was like,
What? Like
Mhm.
some more than others though. Oh well, I see those ooh woo eyes you're giving her.
and I really love how things are wrapped up with Admiral Vance, who turned out to actually be a dad.
And a good guy.
And a good
A good guy, a good father. Turns out, like I was really surprised by a lot of ways the episode went, and I liked that the burn was something so like personal and something it had nothing to do with Discovery. It had nothing like it wasn't caused by our heroes, and I liked that it was dealt with some like very real trauma as opposed to more sci-fi trauma. Like a child seeing their dead mother, I was like, yeah, I get how that would be emotional enough that like it would cause something.
It
And,
would
like-
really burn.
Rachel, you'll appreciate this from Twitch. Lexi Denton says the real burn was the slow burn we're all waiting on with Kayla and Odo.
Oh my god, stop.
The slowest
I love them.
the slowest actually, as the friend I've been showing this season 2, he asked at some point, he was like, wait, are those characters gay? And I was like, canonically,
They're all
maybe,
gay.
maybe. In the fandom, yes, 100%.
These 3 episodes, I have like a love-hate relationship with them because I love ideas in it, but I feel like execution was a little weird and choppy. Not saying it's terrible. I didn't give it like a 5 or 4.
You can just say my name. It's okay.
I like certain ideas, like we said. I'm not a fan of the like. I understand that the trauma of seeing a parent die, it is traumatic, obviously. But the fact that was the cause of the burn, it doesn't sit well with me
Millions
still.
upon millions of people getting killed for it.
Yeah, I just there were a lot of things I felt like we're gonna pull in like that they had mentioned earlier on in the season. I thought they were going to be way more important in the finale, and just threads were just left off that I was just like, okay, I guess that's cool. I thought the Emerald Chain was sort of a lame enemy, and Osira just went out like a punk. I thought Ren dying was tragic. I loved how he finally stood up for himself, but I hate that he just went right in front of our eyes.
Just nonchalant, like
Yeah.
I didn't even get to react. I was just like, what?
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
okay.
I felt the same way. I like the scientist dude that they introduced in the last 3 episodes. I hope he gets to stay as part of the cast. 'Cause
Bartholomew or whatever, Othello.
Aurelio.
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 I was like, it's one of those
Yeah.
Shakespeare names where I'm like, okay, sure.
I liked him. Seeing Michael become the captain at the end, and like that, it was the perfect arc for her to that point on Discovery, and I loved it. Trying to think if there's anything else. I thought it was all right. I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, in general.
I'm not going to go on a long rant about this because if you want to hear my thoughts on Sukal and There Is a Tide, you could listen to our 2 episodes. I go on a huge tirade about it. My 2 least favorite episodes of the season, it has to do not just because of some clunky things, but because of the streaming service models of the kind of era that we're in right now. But They were just also clunky, and going back to Osira just not being a great villain like Eric. I accept what the burn did to move the series along, but I don't like its cause, and I think it was kind of weak. They never really wrapped up the whole. We talked to Jeff Russo earlier in the season about how like he got to write some music for and it was going to be this big mystery, and it ended up not being a big mystery. And listen, in these episodes, like I think Eric said, like there's some good things sprinkled in, like Tilly being just a complete boss in the chair is fantastic. Michael getting to have some awesome moments. Some of the stuff, especially the CG in the holodeck program on the Kelpian ship, is really good. But Osira and I have to point out once again, Janet Kidder's acting just was not on par. I don't know if she wasn't thrilled about the role or not, but she was just never a convincing villain for me. Having said that, I want to point back to something that happened last season with Discovery for me. I was also not a fan of the penultimate episode of season 2, and then the finale blew me away. And this finale, while it didn't blow me away, was still fantastic. Like it was very, very good, and I enjoyed it. It wrapped things up a little bit too quick, but I'm happy with the way they did it, because I've been saying it. This is the one thing I think I was right on this season. It was always going to end with Michael being in the chair, and the way in which it happened was just so well done. I give it all. I give it up to the writing team and the directors, because they could take 2 episodes that were nowhere near my favorite things, and then still manage to get me excited and happy with the way in things were wrapped up.
I think we said it earlier, but even the so episodes of Disco are better than most things on TV, right? So
Yeah.
like we have that. Oh, and I forgot to mention the Willy Wonka elevator turbo lifts.
Yeah, everybody on our Twitch, I can't even keep up. Is like, oh my god,
They can listen to our episodes.
hardest,
Deep dives.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
Well, I think it was a good end of season. I like the fact that we had like 2 different sections. One is discovery and action scenes, and the other part is the Kelpian ship and more talking, more understanding. And I think in that part it was very, very well done. I like the fact that Michael is captain now, but I am not really sure if she's going to stay as captain, because I'm still curious about what is going to happen with Saru. A lot of people are saying that he's going to be some kind of ambassador, perhaps, and I am not so sure. I think there is an issue between Saru and Michael that it is not yet resolved. And I think maybe next season we are going to look more into that. I don't know if she's going to be captain for a couple of episodes, and then Saru is going to return and be captain again. I don't know, but maybe we have a plot on that situation.
I'm just gonna say this right now. If they switch captains of the Discovery one more time, I will stop watching the show. How many Lorca,
Pike.
There's been like
Pike.
5. Okay?
One a season.
They're not gonna do it. They'll keep her as captain, but there will be that whole her and Saru will have to talk about.
I think she is here to stay. And just real quick, 2 comments to go along with that. Rob wrote, Michael in the big chair and everything about Gray in the finale were fantastic. Everything else in 313 was garbage. I wasn't expecting that. Yes. And whatever I wrote, Michael as captain makes sense, although I thought that might be next season. I'm nervous how much we'll actually see of Saru in season 4. I'm going to answer that question right now. Alex Kurtzman just did an interview, and I don't remember the podcast name, but they have confirmed that he is in the whole season. He's in it. Doug Jones is coming back for the entire thing. Don't worry. Sorry. I think who's up next?
It's Hawk.
I think I'm Hawk. Yeah. So I quite like these. I didn't really have as many problems as anybody else watching these 3 episodes. I enjoyed them all a lot. And that listening to Rachel's opinion on the burn and that, I think I gotta agree. I think that was the right way to go in that, instead of a dark conspiracy about the burn and who started it and where did it come from, and that it ended up being something very personal and close to home for a lot of people. And that I don't think there's a lot more to say in that, but I did want to say that my favorite part about in this whole 3-part ending, and that was finally confirming that Vance was a good guy in that. That was my favorite moment in that, because even listening to that deal, I would have taken that deal, and the fact that he stuck to his principles, he stuck to the guiding light of the Federation and that, and said you have to go on trial, and that if this is going to work at all, it's either that or nothing. And that it's I was that sold me. I loved Oded Fair. I love Vance, and I can't wait to see more of him. So I enjoyed this all around. I'm gonna throw it out to you guys now.
I love seeing Doug Jones' face, and I had to draw a picture of him afterwards, and I just loved it. His acting was just so pure and gentle, and I loved watching him interact and mentor Su'Kal. And I was really happy about the reveal that Admiral Vance was good, because by this point, against my better instincts, I was really starting to like him. And I was so scared that my heart was going to be broken, and it wasn't. So that was a happy ending for me. As far as Michael getting the chair, I love it. I think she's ready. I think this is where this show has been going from the first episode. For things that I felt were dropped, I thought the song melody thread was going somewhere else, and that kind of fizzled for me.
They just kind of answered it too early in the season. That's the thing. They answered it by episode 6, so it didn't feel like a real mystery.
Right. So it was evidently the tune that this nebula was making something as it went out into space. I thought it was going to be something more sci-fi, more deeper.
It was the distress signal.
Yeah, I thought
it
I thought there was
be cooler.
Yeah, I also thought at some point I thought we were gonna hear with Su'Kal, his mom singing it or something.
Yes, or the elderly Kelpian. It was going to be something that he had taught him. So that was the one thing that I felt was dropped that I thought could have gone farther. I can't wait to see season 4, because I want to know what Stamets was thinking when he was looking at Michael at the end. All is not well there. I disagree about Asira not being a good villain. I felt like she was way more dangerous than people give her credit for. And her influence maybe wasn't fleshed out well enough over her people, but the fact that the people who worked for her thought she was one of the good guys was huge. The best villains don't see themselves as villains and can convince others that they are the good guy. And we saw that in Kenneth Mitchell's character. And it was really good to see him out of the prosthetics in that, he was trying to convince Stamets that she's trying to help people here. Look how she helped me. So I just disagree on that point. I think there's more there. And I think sometimes for women in film and TV, it's harder to be convincing as the bad guy, because there are societal things they have to overcome to get there. But I thought she did a good job.
I liked this 3-part finale also. I know that definitely the final episode is the strongest of all 3 for sure, but I didn't mind how they did the burn. I liked that it's something you couldn't have possibly guessed. So there's certain aspects of it people could have guessed and gotten right, where they're oh, obviously it involves dilithium, it involves this or that. But I feel like they broke it down as in okay, we don't want the Federation to have started it. Discovery didn't start it. This, a specific one bad group didn't start it. Let's have it be a creature. Maybe the creature did it not of their free will. What could make a creature do this? Not they broke it down that way until they developed some sort of idea where they're oh, okay, a creature in distress that has powers they don't understand, set this off. In my mind, because I work in a comic book store and I've read so many comics my whole life, I was okay, an Omega level mutant accidentally got upset and destroyed part of the universe. That's totally something that's plausible and could happen. So when they explained that in the show, I was yeah, totally. Baby Kelpian has mad powers. Okay, I was rolling with it. I know a lot of people, it's hard to suspend disbelief, but hey, it's sci-fi. So at some point, it's where do you draw the line? You have detached nacelles, you have a baby that cries and blows shit up. So, I mean, that cries and blows dilithium up. So where do you sort of draw that line? So I liked the overall this 3-part story, and while Osira wasn't like my favorite character, I thought she did better in these trilogy episodes, if that made any sense. Like I liked her in the last episode with Michael. As unfortunate it is that she also just gets shot and like dies, and you're
It's just
kind
such
of
a
like, oh
bad
man,
death
that's
for the
it.
character. It just that I think leads more to just feeling like she just wasn't a strong villain, you know?
I fully expected her to escape and then become like a bigger bad next season.
Yeah.
Like that's what I wanted.
Well, we'll see. Because the chain just kind of fell apart, but does it go away completely? It's a chain. We'll see.
You will never ever break the chain.
Yeah, right?
Just because
If you
one of
don't
the
love me
links is
now.
broken doesn't mean it can't be mended.
True.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And that's the thing. It's an organization, so there's always different people that'll head it. I love Michael as the captain. It's what I've wanted for so long. But what I really like about this 3-story arc is that like it not only was a good arc to end this season, but the season finale was an entire arc of the first 3 seasons combined. Like it felt like this journey. Michael started as a mutineer, literally just completely demoted, had to work her way all the way back up, has all these setbacks, found her family, lost her family, found her crew, lost her crew, like so many things along the way. And by the end, she's finally, everything is aligned for her to finally be in this like captain's chair in this role. And it was so satisfying to see how they did it. And just the shots of like, as much as people want to complain about the new uniforms, whatever, I'm sure they'll either grow on us or something will change. But her sitting in that chair and saying, let's fly, like I was just bawling my eyes out. So props to Sonequa. She's always got amazing acting. Like she's half the reason I cry at these episodes, but I think the 3-parter really did a lot for both her and then obviously Doug Jones as Saru, because Doug Jones did it, like he always does an incredible job, but like he does so much in prosthetic work that when you see his actual face, for a lot of people, this might be the first time they saw his face. And on top of that, he was still able to act as a Kelpian, as a human, who was looking like a human. Do you know what I mean? Like he still, even though he had all his prosthetics off, he still acted like a Kelpian who was suddenly a human in a hologram. It was super believable. All of his actions, his motions, he still like leaned like this. He still did his walk, everything that would have made him a Kelpian. So just his acting choices, like he's an absolute master of his craft. So overall, I really enjoyed it, and I was happy that Hope Is You Part 2 was the season finale, because I called it.
Can we talk about how none of us have mentioned how we really wanted this guy to show up?
Give me warp.
Oh, we
5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
I said they should someone should have a hologram Riker to make it make sense.
Yeah, he's got to save the day.
I think the problem was this season was supposed to be in between Picard and Lower Decks, but they had to delay it. So it wasn't supposed to be 2 seasons in a row where Riker shows up and saves the day.
You're supposed to get a reprieve with Discovery. Oh, just kidding.
Oops.
So we can have a few small things now. We're gonna say if anybody has any final favorite moments that we didn't talk about that they want to mention real quick.
Yes, I do.
Now's the time to do it.
I have one really big one. I love that they tied in the Kelvin universe. The fact that they ended up doing that in this season of Star Trek, and the fact that now people can calm down about it being a separate timeline. Brilliant. I love that.
I wanted this is more like I guess character art thing, but I really love Culber in this season. He wasn't ever like the main focus of an episode, but I feel like he really came into his own this episode. But Culber and Stamets basically adopting Adira is the cutest thing.
Yes.
And I love it so much. Like their little found family is the cutest thing, and it must be protected at all costs.
Yes.
Oh, and the way they are with Gray as well, and being able to see Gray. Oh my god, I cried.
Culber hugging Gray is so sweet.
Oh, that hug. Oh.
My favorite was Unification 3. That's all I'll say. That was my favorite moment of the season. I love everything about that.
I'll say refer to our previous episodes to hear all my favorite moments because there's too many.
Sorry.
I would have to go sweet and sappy and full of fluff and say Michael and Book in the elevator and the almost kiss and Linus popping in.
Oh, also Linus was hilarious. Linus was hilarious this season.
Yeah, I loved him and just their relationship and watching it blossom. So yeah, Book's a really good person, and she deserves to be happy.
Mhm.
I want to say only one word, Sahil.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my. Oh yes. Yes. Oh, that actually
Shut
might
up.
tie for Unification 3 at Sahil. Absolutely. At the end there. Yeah.
I'm glad that we finally got another omniscient being in this universe, in this series.
Mhm.
I think it's been a while. I've been hoping to see an omniscient being in that, and that they didn't. They decided not to go with a Q like everybody was theorizing in that, but decided to go back
They
even
didn't
further.
queue it up.
The Guardian Forever reveal is so good. Just the way they mix the effect and the voice is so good.
Mhm.
And also, I want to cosplay Carl. He's
Yes.
so much fun, and
Mm.
I just want to put a little bowler hat on and go to a convention.
So what didn't work this season?
I feel like we've already kind of covered that.
Yeah.
The
That's
majority.
true.
A lot of it along the way is just kind of like Osira, some pacing issues in certain episodes, and
Just the inner.
Yeah,
chain in general for me didn't work.
Yeah.
The absence of Lorca.
The absence of Lorca, the absence of Lorca, the absence of Riker. The
Julian's like,
burn,
not enough fan service, damn it.
the burn, and Osira, I think, are my top 4. Half kidding about Riker. Half.
hologram or we did joke. We talked about this on our podcast that they kept talking about the president of the Federation so much so that we thought the president would show up, and that we joked that he should be played by Jonathan Frakes.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, that would have been amazing. Like
I still think
great
it's
hearing people
Cronenberg. I think
progress.
Cronenberg
Yeah.
is just like chilling as the president, and he's just not telling anybody.
I you know what? There was one thing I forgot to mention. And we didn't talk about Sahil, or did we
Yeah.
talk about him?
We just
I
talked
told
about
you,
him for like
Sam. About a
seconds.
second.
Seconds,
It's hard
but he
'cause
was
it's so
such a
much-
beautiful like character. Like his heart was like something perfect in this season, and like
Mhm.
just one of the best additions.
And having it do bookends at the end where like he
Yeah.
meets her the first
Mm.
episode.
that
and
that
the
hug
end,
at,
Oh,
so good. That's a favorite character arc of mine. Moving on to the next thing, favorite
Mhm.
character arcs. I'll say Sahil. That growth though.
Mhm.
I really like Tilly coming into her own and then kind of realizing like I don't need to be a captain right now. Like,
You're right. I like it.
also I just love Tilly so much.
Yeah, Tilly was wonderful.
Literally the finale of season 2 with Spock and Michael's conversation in the shuttle, and not wanting to leave, and even though he wanted to go with her and having to stay behind, and that then being, even though it's not technically a character arc, I guess it's Michael's character arc, but it has to do with Spock and her getting the satisfaction, even though she wasn't going to initially look him up, to see that he did so much for the universe. And then obviously, listen, this is, I think someone already said it, the culmination of 3 seasons from Mutineer, she did nothing wrong, to Captain. So
yeah,
It was me who said it.
yeah. And we also mentioned this earlier, but Giorgio's arc finally ending in this, or not finally ending, but her end in this season was wonderful, just wonderful.
I'm gonna have to go with Hugh. I loved how he developed as a character this season.
Yeah.
We got to see him doing actual medical work, and also acting as ship's counselor. He really came into his own. It was fantastic to see.
God, do they really need a ship's counselor?
He
Yeah.
really Troyed his test. I agree, though. Hugh is the unspoken hero. Huge effort. Okay. Any season 4 theories? I feel like we've kind of discussed them as we've
Yeah.
gone. That's the thing.
I-
It's just like if anybody wants to follow up.
I do like the idea of Saru being an ambassador, because my theory, although this has, at some point when I realized Vance wasn't evil, I was, like I said, I was convinced he would die. And so my theory was that he would die and then Saru would be promoted to admiral. But I was like, he could still take, I feel like, a leadership role. Maybe Vance wants to actually go see his daughter. Like,
I didn't know if maybe
his
Saru
family's
could
alive.
be, maybe Saru can be some sort of advisory person, kind of like Neelix was, but like maybe his true work is on Kaminar and he helps Michael on the side.
Yeah.
And he'd be a better cook.
I'd love Saru to be that person that does the first contacts and the like maybe having people rejoin the Federation. Like that's Discovery's path in season 4. That would be awesome. Like he'd be there, not as the captain.
I think Saru's like backstory of being the first of his species to like join the Federation, I think, would make him really good at that.
Yeah. I don't have a necessarily like a theory for like big moments that are going to happen. I will say, and I'm probably going to end up being dead wrong on this, I think that season 4 is going to be even more of a return to episodic Star Trek. And I'm not saying that it's not going to be a serialized story. Like there's not going to be one main arc. I think there's still going to be, but I do think that they are going to spend some more time doing individual episodes, because I think they have to do a lot of planet hopping, like they set up at the end of the season, that they have to start delivering dilithium again because people can go to warp now. And they need it to sustain and kind of get things back going. I think Earth is going to be involved, and whether they join the Federation, maybe they're not. Hey, maybe Earth might be a bad guy. That kind of remains to be seen. It's something to be said. Just real quick on Twitch, Lexi says that she wants to see the Borg. It's weird to me that they wouldn't have taken advantage of the Federation being in a weakened state. Wholeheartedly agree. I don't know if I need to see them next season, but I think it's something to at least mention.
That's fair. I definitely. It's funny because I've been holding this Borg cube. I would love to watch the Discovery people find out what the Borg are and be utterly terrified.
Yes.
Reminds me, we were lucky enough to have Ian Lake on, who played Tolor, and he was saying that he would love to come back and play a Borg. Yes. So he could definitely do that in the show, and I would be very happy because I would love to see them react to like, wait, what?
Isn't Ian such a great interview? That dude was so great.
Yeah.
He was amazing.
They could call him Lake Cutis of Borg.
I have one more theory. I think it would be cool if books like Species of People started if they started making more ships like Discovery and doing these jumps to go around and build the Federation more. I thought that would be cool. Not too many of them, but like maybe there's another like a sister ship to the Discovery.
Hello, Federation Courier. That'll work. Any more season 4 theories or thoughts?
I don't really have any theories. I wouldn't mind seeing what the Klingons are up to in this era.
That is true. I kind of hope this. I don't know if this is a theory, but I hope the Stamets being mad at Michael isn't something that lasts like the whole season.
Yeah, I feel like it probably won't.
Yeah, I was like, it needs to be addressed, but I was like, but also they're friends, and I don't want them to be mad.
Yeah, I feel like it'll end up being part of his character growth because he like needs that still as much as he like had more this season. I think it's just gonna tie into that where he finally like kind of grows past. He's a little selfish sometimes, and whereas Michael's too selfless, so that's where they kind of butt heads. Okay, so we asked our people on Twitter, all of our listeners and people, some Subspace Poland podcast rating stuffs. So we asked what your final review of Disco Season 3 was, and here are the results. 42% said it was the best season yet. 47% said it was pretty good. 8% said it was just okay. And 3% said it was the worst season so far. So overall, people said it was either the best or a good season. And I think we can all agree.
Agreed.
It's Star Trek. It's like pizza in that. Even when it's not great, it's still pretty good.
Yeah.
You'll still eat it at, midnight.
It will nourish you.
Exactly. So I'd like to extend our thanks from the...
Are we doing our full season ratings?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Sorry, what are all of our ratings out of 10 for this season? Anyone can go first.
I give it an 8. It kept me coming back every week, and I was never really disappointed in anything in that, and that's always a mark of a good show and a good season in that. So I'm gonna go 8 out of 10.
I'll agree with that. 8 out of 10.
I think I'm good with an 8. Eight's also my lucky number, so maybe that's the top.
Right.
But I think like even if it wasn't an episode like I was absolutely in love with some episodes, I was still invested, and I still every week I wanted to watch the next episode. There are some shows where I was like, I don't care, and I always cared.
Right. So for me, the best season of the show is season 2.
Agreed.
Yeah, I loved that. So it was no season 2, but it was good. So like a 7 or 8.
Yeah, 100% with Marcie. Season 2 is still the best season of the show. I will also stay in that 8 out of 10 range. Just on Twitch real quick, Joe says it is the best season of Discovery so far. And Rob also says season 2 is greater than season 3, but still great.
Yeah, I think that's the same thing where I love season 2 so much that I was like, it's not quite. I love Pike so much that it really season 2 having Pike gives it an unfair advantage to all other seasons of TV shows.
Yes.
I guess I'm also going to give it an 8 out of 10. I like how we're all keeping around the same amount. I really enjoyed it. I really did enjoy season 2, and but at the same time, I loved a lot of the things that they did, because a lot of the choices they made, no pun intended, were bold this season. Some worked, some didn't, but that's what you got to do to try and make a good show. So I'm not sure I'll ever pick, like, I don't know if I could pick right now if I liked 2 or 3 more, but they both made me cry an equal amount. So yeah, 8 out of 10.
Lewis, you have a rating?
Well,
Sorry.
Yes, it's okay. I think it was a very solid season. I think an 8 out of 10. But I'm not sure if it is the best season. Maybe season 2 is the best.
I respect that. Okay.
But
so-
very, very close.
Very close. Awesome. Is that it for everybody? Everybody got to do the ratings? Awesome. Well, we'd like to thank you all so much. Thanks to Marcie and her crew for joining us tonight for this really awesome big review of the whole season. Obviously, it's impossible to talk about all of it in just a few hours, because the episodes were like an hour long each. But definitely tune into both of our podcasts. Check back on older episodes to hear other reviews of the whole season. Marcie, if you'd like to plug your podcast in here, you can.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. I just love being here. Discotech Podcast, and you can find us on Twitter and iTunes, all the good stuff.
And Marcie, just real quick, thank you so much for messaging me that you wanted to do this. Like, just throwing it out there, because I'm so glad that we did, and I hope this should really be something that we do. I think at the end of every season, like our 2 pods get together and do this, because this was a blast.
Yes,
This
definitely.
was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was an awesome season of Disco, and we enjoyed reviewing it with you. And for all of you guys watching live on Twitch, I'm not sure if this is still going to go on or not, because we're wrapping up a little late.
We're doing it.
They're doing it. Well, they are, not me. I got a big day of work tomorrow. So for those of you watching live on Twitch, you can join the rest of us shortly after this show for our Best of Trek watch along. We're doing Galaxy's Child. So yeah, every Thursday after we record, we'll then do a Best of Trek watch along. So hop on our Discord. If you don't know where it is, head to our Twitter real quick. We still have the link up, and you can join us there. So thanks for tuning in. Live long and prosper. Majoram, all the good things.
Bye.
Let's fly. Thanks for beaming into our podcast today. If you want to keep the hailing frequencies open, you can subscribe on Apple and Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. Like what you hear? Put in a good word with Starfleet and leave us a 5-star review.